is the Vintage RPG Podcast, your source for the best in classic and contemporary RPGs. With your hosts, Hambone and Stu.
Welcome to the RPG Podcast, coming at you again from the clubhouse in somewhere in the swamps of New Jersey. I'm John Hambone McGuire, and with me, as always, is the founder and publisher of Unwinnable. Today, I got confused because I thought he said we were talking about the Baroness, and I got really excited. Stu Horvath.
Hambone, it's not that kind of podcast.
I know. I know.
Formative though she may be to
Certainly
a lot of
was.
men of our generation.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about Barony, a role-playing game that I bet, we have some listeners, and I bet maybe one of them has gone, oh, whoa, Barony, really? And then the rest of everybody else is sort of like, well, maybe an episode on Baroness wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
So I've been after this game for a long time. It's not easy to come by, and when you find it, it tends to be expensive. It did not have a huge print run, which makes me think that it is not very influential or well known. I don't think that a lot of people know about this game. Although it was reviewed in both White Wolf magazine and Dragon magazine at the time of its release in 1992. I've read and I own an awful lot of independently made role-playing materials from the dawn of the hobby to now. In the 70s and 80s, they tended to be pretty rough around the edges. In fact, I would say that even Dungeons and Dragons, which was, a somewhat professional outfit during the 70s and 80s, was not putting out the most polished prose, right?
Right.
Dungeon Master's Guide kind of could be difficult to parse in places. There's the whole rule lawyer concept comes out of the difficulty of the prose. Yeah. Barony is very hard to read. I have not owned this very long, and I have struggled to read it. So if I get this wrong in some ways, please forgive me. And then, find a PDF or a copy of Barony and read it and understand my suffering. It's very difficult to read. I think that sitting where we are, 50 years in the hobby, there's a lot of, we've gotten better at it. Just
Certainly
generally, baseline, like everything, like there's just a quality of life in like even like your most indie of releases that's higher than we really give notice to, and that's great. But then you go back sometimes and it makes something like the Barony very, very difficult to parse. A lot of the rules and the explanation of the rules, I just don't understand. I can't parse it. Thankfully, I read Lester Smith's review in Dragon magazine when I hit some dense verbiage, and I was just like, this is crazy. And he's basically says the same thing as what I'm about to say, is that this is one of the most creative and interesting role-playing systems I have ever encountered, that is done dirty by its presentation. It's super creative, and it's a shame that it didn't have an editor to save it from itself. So I think that so there's 3 books that come in this. This is very emblematic of the whole affair. So there's 3 books, and they come in what you think, because it's labeled as such. This outer sleeve doubles as a referee's screen.
Okay. I love that.
That's cool. But unfortunately, the outer sleeve is printed on paper that is like a lighter stock than page stock. I guess this is like cheap cover stock. There's no way that this could stand like a light breeze. I mean, it's not okay. I guess I could. No. It's eventually going to fall over. And because they designed it as a screen, for some reason, you tuck the books inside, and then the traditional, with the open, you hold it in your hands, and the opening is on, your right hand side. There's just credits. The front is actually the back.
Okay.
So like it says Barony front fantasy roleplay by Better Games. When that's facing you, the opening is on the left side. That doesn't ruin it, but like it certainly indicates a certain amount of not thinking it out. But I don't want to belabor that further because the game itself is pretty interesting. So there's only 4 character classes. I'm pretty sure that the game is based on the D8. It never actually says that, and I think that most of the times you're rolling a 2D8 for your skill tests. Again, not super clear. And there is some sort of companion computer program, which is like astounding for 1992. I don't have any information on that. I don't have a copy. If I had a copy, I wouldn't have anything that could run it. But it is cross-checked in the rules a lot. It's called Hugo. I think that primarily it was for dungeon generation, which again, very, very far ahead of the curve. But four characters, 4 basic character classes: footman, bumpkin, street urchin, and student. Each of these gets basically a trait, which they're defined by, and then there's no random progression. Basically, every scenario that you play, you go up to the next. I don't want to call it level, but like the next title. So you're guaranteed, if you survive the mission, to progress. But then they have this page where it's just like it's a list of all of the different professions, essentially, with hand-drawn arrows between them. It shows the paths that you could take to like get all of these skills and stuff. So like if you start as a footman, you have basically 2 paths of progression when you complete your first mission. You could become a soldier, or you could become a man-at-arms. But once you're at man-at-arms, you've got 3 different paths. You could go to sergeant, which you could also go to from soldier. Or you could go to duelist, which is technically a bumpkin, part of the bumpkin progression tree. Or you could continue along at this sort of melding of the footman and bumpkin path to veteran. It's just this interesting thing. Like you could get to the top. So the very best, the top level for footman is God Emperor.
Okay, wait. Footman to God Emperor?
Yeah, so it goes footman to God Emperor, bumpkin to Dark Lord. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Footman to God Emperor, bumpkin to Heinous One, street urchin to Grandfather of Thieves, and student to Zaire, which is like an archmage.
Okay.
And then there's 2 further ranks. You can get to Dark Lord or the ultimate, the Delta Zaire, which is like the highest mage. But you can get there in 8 steps.
Okay. So 8 branches on the progression tree.
If you go directly, if you meander and try and pick up more skills, you could take like, I don't know, 20, 25 steps and then become really powerful and then get to your highest level.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, so right off the bat, like you have very, very non-traditional class archetypes, right?
Yes. Well,
bumpkin. I mean, you got like a weird dice, 2d8.
Yeah.
Right. So like completely like, I mean, and granted, coming from a guy whose system runs off a D10, now everyone understands the concept. Like, there's another dude who does an action style game with a D12. Like people get the weird dice now, but like this is what you said, 92.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, a computer program. Like, talk about ambitious.
This is gonna get weirder.
Okay.
So there's skills, there's traits. Traits are sort of attached to class. There's only like 4 degrees of success, which is basically there's really 3. It's simple, different, or tasking, which that's not a verb that I would use. But and then the 4th degree of difficulty is limit, which is like of your ability, and it basically means that it's impossible. That also feels pretty early for this. James Bond, which I think is 88, has sort of degrees of success, but again, that's very. I think of that as more of a later 90s and early 2000s kind of thing, and it's here in a crude and rudimentary sort of way. And then there's tasks, which are the same thing. The combat system's interesting because you don't have weapons.
Okay.
I mean, you do. The game assumes that you have the coolest weapon that you can find, because why wouldn't you? you have like a way of attacking. So it's like leveraged attack. You're always like looking to unbalance your opponent. A leveraged attack would maybe be like very thief style of combat, a duelist. Or like you might attack with an irregular blow, which is like maybe like a monk, like a sneaky kind of like attack, works like a knuckleball or something. Or like you might just use your weapon like a hero, in that you make it look good, and it's always to finish the battle with style and honor or whatever. But like all of these things are keyed to the idea that this is more of a storytelling system than it is a mechanical one. You're looking to define your player not through, and it says this specifically in the text, which I was sort of shocked by. Define your character less by the equipment that they carry and more by what they do with it. And like that is crazy talk for 1992.
Oh yeah.
like that is like that's crazy talk for 1998. Like you start to see stuff like that in more freeform games like a Nobilis, which I think is 98, 99. James Wallace's new style games.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like it's so interesting to me that and then damage, you don't have hit points, you have adjectives.
What now?
There's 4 different types of damage. There's bruise cut, there's bleeder, there's vicious, and there's spirit. Those don't really make any sense.
Not a lick.
But each of them is a stack of adjectives. So like bruise cut is character base, player, ruggedness, man at arms, cut purse, thief, mutilator, heinous one. Like I don't understand what that means effectively. And then there's overflow to bleeder. The specifics of it, gobbledygook. But how it works is when you take damage, you cross off an adjective. If you take 2 bruise cut damage and you only have 1 bruise cut, you overflow to the bleeder tab where you might have 2 or 3 more adjectives. You can have adjectives in each stack. Once you run out of adjectives, you're dead.
I mean, no, yeah.
This is not like I said, this isn't, it doesn't, it's interesting here, and it becomes more interesting later when like the Year Zero system basically uses this system. In Tales from the Loop, like you become like, every time you become injured, you become like distressed, or you become tired, or bruised, or you get all of these status effects, which then reduce the number of dice you can roll, right? And it's the same basic thing here. Like they use bad language to describe it, but if bruise cut was like a bunch of different things, Goblinville absolutely uses this, where their monsters are a set of abilities, words describing abilities, and every time the goblins successfully attack, they take one of those away. Once they run out of abilities, they're dead. Like that makes more sense, right? It's like, okay,
that makes complete sense.
Umber Hulk, it's like brawny, confusing, pincers, and then it's like, okay, so that's their hit points. They have 3 hit points, and you need 3 successful attacks. Each one disables one of those attacks, and then they die. It's the same thing.
Perfect.
It's just they didn't figure it out right.
Yeah.
There isn't, the level of polish isn't there, but like you can see the framework for like a bonkers sort of, this is so ahead of its time.
Yeah, I mean, kids, always make sure you get a play tester or a pal who's going to be like, yo, dog, you could explain this better.
Yeah, I think they describe having some success playing it at conventions in on the West Coast. I think that it's just a matter of like they didn't take it to that next level of like getting. In 92, it was hard to find the way to do this too. Like there's just, we have collectively become better at this. There's, you can see people doing it online. You can see how people approach things. It has lowered the barrier to entry to making things with clarity that is lacking here. I think that they just never had the opportunity to kind of get outside of their own heads to figure out how to explain this, because they succeeded in explaining it at the table to players at conventions, but that didn't translate to the book. So like the book went out and people were just like, I don't understand this. Another cool thing, there's no inventory. The game assumes that you have what you need, unless you fail a skill check, in which that means you've forgotten to pack that one thing. Again, super cool, very interesting. Blades of the Dark, it reminds me of some stuff from Blades of the Dark from Black Hack. And I just can't, I can't express clearly enough how this is just, it represents a mode of thinking that just did not exist at the time. If we're looking at the established games that were out in 1992 and previous, this game is so outside the norm of the way people were thinking about RPGs. And they went into it expressly trying to find a different way to do it. That was more fun, more engaging, less bound by mechanics, which they found tedious. They wanted to be narrative and story first without being like crotchety.
Right, makes sense.
They wanted it to be dynamic. They wanted the players to take more of a role in defining what was going on. The referee is really a diminished role in the dynamic of play. The players are really setting the stakes for much of what the action of the game is, very player centric. Whereas the construction of the game, which we'll talk about in a minute, is the domain of the referee. And that's basically it. Everything is a 2d8 skill check. It's a very straightforward system once you kind of crack the language. And magic. Yeah. Of course, this has a crazy freeform magic system. Basically, magic is stating there's something like 6 or 8 natural laws in the game. You use magic in Barony. The rules are called Conrad's Fantasy.
Oh, that's fun.
No explanation who Conrad is. Hey, great name, but tell me who Conrad is. So there's these laws. Basically, you cast spells by explaining how you want to break one of the laws of reality. Anybody can do this, but if you do, reality has this tendency to like whip back on you for breaking the laws and like blow your face off with like magical energy as it rights itself, which is exactly how magic works in Mage, the Ascension, the World of Darkness game for White Wolf that comes out in 1993. They have the basic foundation. Now, granted, Mage, the Ascension is based on Ars Magica, which it also has a free-form magic system. But it's interesting that the paradox system that is very much at the heart of Mage, the Ascension is basically described here first, a year ahead of time. And I think that magic system is pretty cool. Again, not presented the way I would want it to be. Like, I think that there needs to be a lot of framework added to this to sort of make it usable. But they make a good attempt of sort of presenting the laws of reality and cataloging a bunch of potential effects and how they could fail. Like there's a lot of stuff here. Like I think that this is perhaps the strongest part of the core rules is the magic system, just because they put that extra work in to frame it out and to support play in a way that, but by the time you get through the section, it's just like, okay, I get this. It's a little hard work along the way, but
well, I mean, back then they also, if I recall correctly, like any book that I've read from around that time period, no one exactly had quick play rules yet.
No, but it's interesting that you use the word quick, because they describe their system as a quick and dirty system where you could pick it up and play it as quickly as possible, which again, really? I mean, yeah, they were aiming for the sky, the stars. It isn't in execution quick and dirty, but the idea of a quick and dirty system that you're removing all the boundaries, as many of or minimizing the boundaries to play as possible. Again, not something that, like, the 90s was the era of the biggest book was the best game thinking. Like, this is the exact opposite of that. This is like yeah. let's get to the table and play as quickly as possible. To facilitate that, there's 2 additional books in the folder. One is Encounters Fantasy Scenarios, which is like 3 words that don't make sense next to each other, really. And then there's Designing Fantasy Scenarios, which does make sense. What they do is they created a system whereby you use tarot cards to create both your overarching scenario for the session, and then if you need supplemental encounters, you can use tarot cards to put them together as fast as a tarot card reading. Basically, you lay the cards out really quick. You consult the keys that are in these 2 books, and you can, within 15 minutes, you can have a scenario ready to play that will take. It's a framework and it's collaborative, and you're going to have to put like work in during play, but you have your framework in a matter of minutes. It's impressive.
I mean, it's impressive, but it's definitely 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. Like once you hit the point where you got a computer program, D8 system, weird esoteric characters, adjectives, and now tarot cards. Holy shit.
They did include like these little cards. They're very cute. It's basically like a cardstock sheet with, I don't know, the cards once you cut them out are about an inch by an inch and a half, and it's just labeled like 10 cups, 6 cups, knave cups, world, death. Like it, like just so you like you don't actually like, but it is again thoughtful that they provided proxies for the deck of cards instead of making you buy them.
No, that's great. And listen, don't get me wrong. I love anybody who swings for the fences. It's just amazing to me that, like, for the year it came out, they really swung for the fences. And also, like, my next question to you is, did they come out with anything else after this that may have refined it?
I don't believe so. I think that this is it. As far as I'm aware, I think that there is a new edition that has come out in 2023. I have not investigated that much.
Oh, that's cool.
The tarot card thing, I left something out from Conrad's Fantasy. They have this whole thing where they're just like combat can be resolved in this quick way, but then they have like 10 pages devoted to fighting dragons using tarot cards. And it's just pure genius, Hambone. It's like stunning how awesome it is.
That's cool.
It's so exciting. You start off in front of the dragon terrified, and you draw tarot cards to figure out what you do. And if you survive that, the tarot cards that you draw put you on different locations on the dragon, like holding on to the dragon, trying to find a way to like attack this thing because it's too big and too strong. And you basically work your way round by round, drawing these tarot cards that determine what you do relative to your location on the dragon.
All right.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so dramatic and exciting. I don't think I can't imagine playing it really in this form, but like, dude, this thing is so full of ideas. And I honestly, I really do think that like maybe nobody knows about it, and that like they were just ahead of the natural evolutionary curve of design.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get comments being like, well, actually, I played this back in 1994 and blah, blah, blah.
Please, if you played it, tell me, because
we would like to know.
It feels like in a lot of ways, it feels like the idea of like a missing link, like that there's just so much in this thing that predicts like just ideas, and again, it the specifics of the ideas are less interesting to me than the idea of just the whole outlook of the game is just utterly alien to the field that it released to. Like, I'm fascinated by it. I crave context for it, but I've looked around online. There's just not a whole lot. Like, everything that I saw is really derivative of Lester Smith's Dragon Magazine review. There's not a lot of people talking about it or mentioning it. I bet if I could find, if there was a database of the alarms and excursions, maybe I could find some evidence of it influencing folks. But on the internet and its increasingly unhelpful search engines, I can't find much of anything. So I don't know. It's a mystery, and it's a very intriguing one. If I were to write a sequel to my book, this one would be in it.
Well, maybe if the author is alive and listening to us, hit us up.
They are, yeah. You should definitely hit us up if you're listening to this. And I don't mean to be mean about the editing, but I also, I could be hired to edit.
Yeah, I mean, you are a proven entity as an author, so I mean,
yeah,
you may have written a few 100,000 million words at this point, but
it's all right. No, it's form is not function. The form is unfortunate, but the function is the thing that's really interesting, and there's just a wealth of gobsmacking ideas in this thing. It's definitely worth checking out, especially if you yourself are working on games that you're trying to push play in different directions. If not the specifics of how they did it, the underlying ideas, their methods to sort of undercut the status quo. You could see what they don't like and how they tried to work against it pretty clearly, even if the specifics of their mechanics don't necessarily make sense all the time.
I mean, that sounds like a final thought to me. You got anything else to add?
No, that's good.
All right. Well, this is another amazing episode of the Vintage RPG Podcast. Stu, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me on the old vintagerpg.com. And you can find me later this week, because this is dropping on the 29th. You can find me later this week at Gen Con. I'll be there Friday at 3 p.m. You can hit me up at the MIT Press booth or table or whatever it is. I've never been to Gen Con, so I don't know what they look like. But I'll be there doing a signing of the book. You can get the book there, physical copy, or you can order it online and have it shipped to your house for 20% off.
Whoa.
That's a good deal.
That's actually a really great deal, especially if you like, the book is thick. The book is amazing. But, when you're at Gen Con, and you'll see. Oh, buddy, you'll see. You always end up buying more than you think you're going to buy, and there's only so much space in the suitcase. So getting it for 20% off and shipped directly to your house for when you get home from Gen Con, that's a no-brainer to me.
I'll report back on this next week. I've already investigated putting another bag inside my suitcase to see if I could magically have 2 bags coming back. And in addition to that, I think I'm going to pack some flat boxes in my suitcase and then pirate ship them from my hotel home.
So smart. So smart. And also, what I did on the way back from GaryCon, I bought a little shoulder bag that I filled with books.
Yeah.
That I just took on the plane.
Yeah, I'm examining a lot of options. There's and the funny thing is I'm probably going to get there and be like, I have most of this. That's a lie. I've been holding off buying Chaosium books. I'm going to have
oh, buddy.
I'm going to have a foot and a half of Chaosium books to bring home.
You'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely go check out Stu at Gen Con and also vote for Stu at the Ennies. Experience points, the Lost Chapters to Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground is up for the other RPG category.
Oh, no. That's over.
Oh, the voting for that is over.
The voting's closed.
Then shame on you if you didn't vote for him when you had the chance.
I can't believe you didn't vote for me.
Oh, God. Well, anyway, definitely if you're at Gen Con and you are one of our listeners, go say hi to Stu. 3 o'clock Friday, MIT booth. Yeah, go shoot the breeze. And
I'll be bopping around generally. You could just, if you see me, say hi.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, dude, you're gonna get your steps in, man. You can find me across the internet at John McGuire RPG. Yeah, I post stuff. That's all I got today. I haven't had my coffee yet. But yeah, you can find me across the internet at John McGuire RPG. Oh, yeah, if you want to pick up some of my books, you can get them over at Exalted Funeral. Check out 3-2-1 Action RPG at Exalted Funeral. By this point, we're inching closer and closer to the release of Brain Eaters. Me and Brian, the Neon Lord Shutter, got a really cool zombie survival coming out. Hopefully in time to be able to play it at Halloween. So keep your eyes open for that. If you like the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Your reviews help other listeners to find us. And if you really like the show, want to become a patron, patreon.com/vintagerpg. We have a lot of cool stuff going on over there. We got a killer Discord community, which is truly an oasis from the rest of social media. We have early release episodes at some point on Friday or Saturday, depending on when Stu and I record them. Usually now that we're doing doubles on Sundays, you should be getting them on time on Fridays. That's for as little as $1 a month. $10 gets you in on Stu's West Marches game. $5 gets you in at my tier. I don't know what I'm doing this month yet because we're recording this so far in advance, which is, a first for us. #growth. Yeah, it's pretty cool over there. We got a lot of cool stuff. Behind the scenes, look at what Stu's working on. Behind the scenes, look at what I'm working on. Patreon.com/vintagerpg. So for Stu Horvath, I'm John Hambone McGuire. May the dice always roll in your favor.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Every review helps other listeners to find us. The Vintage RPG Podcast is a ham-fisted production. Music by Dega West. Art by Schaefer Brown. If you like the podcast, you should also consider becoming a patron at patreon.com.